such a good feeling, you know, to get into Apple, my very first shift playing pro, and then to be able to get in a fight and pretty much clean house. So,
is there one thing that you would be allowed to say or would want to say?
And you got guys bringing strippers and hookers and you name it, and money wasn't an issue. It was just like who you bringing, because we need to know who's coming to this private, you know, party that we're having.
And do you feel that boxing really helped you for this?
Oh,
like, I know it's a different style.
100%. Boxing was a key to my success, you know. Just being able to move your hands, how to punch, where you snap your punches. I'd rather fight 3 times than score 3 times, though. You get more chicks.
Yeah.
Booyah, and it's time for the Game Sports Show. It is your host, David McCaig Jr., bringing you another special edition upload powered by the Game Entertainment and Media. Wherever you're tuning in, the Game Sports Show and TGM are happy to have you with us as this special edition upload promises, as always, to deliver its usual electrifying content. Also, wherever you're listening, make sure you're subscribed, following, and liking the video or audio versions of our content from the TGM YouTube channel to wherever you get your podcasts, such as Apple, Spotify, Google Podcasts, and much, much more. Now, getting to the co-host joining yours truly for tonight's upload, you know him by now, okay? If you don't know him by now, I just don't understand why you wouldn't. He's a former professional hockey player of over 1,000 games at the professional level and a hockey analyst for TGM. Brendan Brooks. Brooksy, how's it going, pal?
Yes, sir. It's good to be back. Had a little hiatus for a few, and I'm really looking forward to the show today.
Definitely. Our special edition uploads and all of our shows are always fantastic to tune into, and the listeners are in for another treat here today. Now, getting to our special edition guest.
Actually, hold that thought. Are you looking for a way to show off that memorable sports item? Preferably a jersey? Just like how I like to show off my John Tavares Toronto Maple Leaf jersey? Well, look no further than the Sport Display's jersey mount. It's easy to put up, and it's easy to take down, and it looks nice on your wall. Perfect for your office, perfect for your cave, perfect for your garage, perfect anywhere. Plus, they offer great fundraising opportunities for your sports teams. You can check them out on their website, thesportdisplays.com.
Now, getting to our special edition guest, he's a Canadian ice hockey player who has played in multiple professional leagues, such as the KHL, the AHL, the USH, the LNAH, and the FPHL, where he was signed as part of this season at this point of recording. He also played in the WHL at the junior level for the Prince Albert Raiders, Tri-City Americans, and the Moose Jaw Warriors. This guest was wicked Mohawk style, who played 464 professional games in those professional leagues that I mentioned. He has made his professional MMA debut, and as a youth, he was involved in boxing, where he was provincial and Golden Gloves champion in 1998 and 1999. And another fun fact, if you're living under a rock and haven't seen the TV series Shoresy yet, well, first off, get on it. And if you have seen it, you'll recognize this individual as he is on the cast of Shoresy and is known as one of the Jims. This show features a cast of Jarek Kiso, previous special edition guest, friend of Brooksy and myself, an entertainment connoisseur, I like to call him, Terry Ryan, Jordan Nolan, and many more. In the words of Shoresy, quote unquote, "Are you 3 Jims? All right, you'll need nicknames. What is your last name? We prefer to be called by our first names." Nicknamed by his teammates and fans as Nasty, and who developed a strong following throughout his career due to his Mohawk style and laughing during his fights, with now even providing laughs on the television screen. The one and only Jon Mirasty. John, pumped to have you on here, pal.
Awesome, guys. Thanks for having me. Looking forward to it.
Definitely. Now, I had to take a quick breath from that introduction. There's a lot that we got into, and you know what? It's great to have you on. I might call you Jim on this upload once in a while. I may call you John, whatever it may be. But jokes aside, getting right into it. On the show, we're going to go all over the place, and we like to keep it more fun, keep it interesting, and to say we got a lot to get into because you do have a lot of stories to share. I did my research prior to the show too, and there's some good stories we can get into, but we'll save that. So firstly, I want to get into Shoresy, okay? Absolute beauty of a show, and I believe that's in your character description with the other gyms, quote unquote. It is so fucking hilarious. Okay. And it's in a language that if you're not a hockey player, maybe there should be subtitles. Okay. Like if you're a hockey player, you understand the language a bit more. But the show was announced in June 2021, hit the screens in May 2022. So talk to me about Shoresy. How did it become that you landed as one of the gyms on Shoresy?
Oh, it was actually kind of a pretty strange story because, obviously I'm getting older in age and I do a lot of work in my community of Flying Dust First Nation, and, our emails are made public. So I received an email at my work about being on some TV show called Letterkenny. And I'm not much of a TV guy. I watch Sportsnet news and I watch a little bit of the news and the movies. And so I didn't have a clue what Letterkenny was. And it was kind of funny. So I came home and told my wife, I said, yeah, some show called Letterkenny wants me to be a part of their TV show. And so we Googled it, and I remember thinking, fuck, is this the stupidest thing I've ever seen in my life? And so long story short is I ended up writing back and, telling them I was interested in stuff, but completely left on vacation after that. And when I'm on vacation, I don't check my work email, and I get back, and so I responded, I said, sorry guys, I didn't realize you wanted me to audition for this show, and thank you for the opportunity. And right away they wrote back and said, no, you don't need to audition. Kiso wants you anyways. So long story short is about 4 months later, I was on an airplane to Sudbury, Ontario to be one of the gyms. And it was a hell of an experience. Jared Kiso, I can't say enough good things about the guy. He's a magician at what he does, and actually became a close friend now. So it's a great, organization to be a part of. And I think you can expect a lot more good stuff to come from Shoresy.
Definitely. You got the shirt on too. You're repping the shirt. I said that to you off air. You got the Shoresy shirt on. That is absolutely killer. Me and my friends and we love the show. Definitely. It's definitely what can set some massive entertainment. And obviously you got into how you took the role and everything, but after, what was the obvious note aside of you taking the role? After you talked to him, you got there. Was it just like you didn't know much going down there and then you took it? Or did you have to read a script about it first? How'd that all go for you to kind of say, all right, finally, yes, I'll take it? Or what?
Well, I ain't gonna lie, I was a complete rookie at what I did. I mean, they sent me scripts and all this, and I didn't even look at them until I got there. And I think I'm trying to be kind of almost famous from the scripts, because I didn't have many lines. Our lines were kind of limited on there, but it was pretty easy. But at the same time, it was pretty difficult because I was gym number one, so I was always the first one speaking, right? So I had to know when to speak, and then once I spoke, you knew that gym number two was going to speak, who was Brandon Nolan, and then gym number three was Jordan Nolan. So I felt that I had the pressure on me because I always had to know when. But funny story is, one of the lines in there that I say is "yeah" a lot, right? And when I was studying the things, that Kiso say, hey, did you study your lines? And I didn't even look once at my lines. I just kind of would. Jordan Nolan was actually the whiz of the three of us. And he was like, oh, I know your line and your line. So all you have to do is say, yeah. And so as a joke, I told Kiso, I said, listen, he said, well, how are you going to say it? And I said, yeah, like really stupidly, right? And I was completely joking over some beer. And Kiso just looked at me with his big eyes and said, that's exactly how you have to say it. So now instead of just saying yeah, it's a big yeah. And so now they have T-shirts made out that says yeah on the shirts. And, so to be honest, I didn't really study any of my lines. I just they worked so good with us. I mean, they knew, well, what Kiso told me was he said, it's harder to train actors to be hockey players rather than to train hockey players to be actors. So it worked out well, when we were doing the hockey scenes, me, Jordan, and Brandon kind of nailed it because, that was our career for our livelihood. So we were pretty good on the ice part. It was the acting that came hard, but, they were very patient with us. And if we fucked up, they were willing to let us do it all over again and stuff. So a lot of support, great teamwork there. And it was a hell of a time.
Hey, it's so funny that you say about Jordan. I don't know if you remember when I came down to Sudbury to meet Terry Ryan for dinner, and I think all you guys were there. And then Jordan and I were talking when I was there in Sudbury, and he was so stressed out. He's like, I gotta go. I gotta study some more lines. It's so funny that you say that. So he was studying everybody's lines.
Yeah, he was studying all our lines. So sorry guys, I'm just grabbing a charger here. But yeah, Jordan, we called him the nerd of the three. He was the one that, was always trying to go study. And me and Brandon were more the social guys. Like, no, let's just go visit everybody and be team guys. So, yeah, but it was
that's
a
the
great,
best.
great experience.
No, and like, how about the mood on set? Is it like how the show is? Like, obviously, you got to do your job, get the work done, get the criteria out. Obviously, it goes for television, go for radio, whatever it may be. But on set, you guys got all the beauties, quote unquote. I know it's a word that a lot of people like to use with it. Is it just loose? Is it just fun? Was it even considered work? Or was there ever a time where guys are like debating and say, hey, why would we say this? Did you ever get any kind of various moods on set, or was it pretty straightforward?
It was pretty straightforward, laid back. But what I really appreciated about Keito was, he wanted to make a hockey movie that was realistic, especially like the fighting and stuff. So, I mean, you watch those, you watch the old Goon and all those movies when they have hockey fights. Those aren't real hockey fights, the way they stand and they box almost in a circle. So, there's a lot of times where they direct me what to do. And I'd say, honestly, Jared, I would never do that in a hockey fight, So he actually took a lot of advice for us to make it realistic, right? Not even the fighting part, like the being on the ice, like how we would hold our sticks or how we would set up our stalls in our dressing room. He always kind of consulted with us because we were the guys that did that as a career. So, there was a lot of communication between us going back and forth. And I mean, it was awesome. And being on scene, I mean, there were some long days that we were on the scene for 14 hours.
Wow.
And then there were some days we were there for an hour, you're like, holy, so great experience, but also great support. And, anything we needed, we were, treated awesome.
Some accents too, like, Brooksy knows Terry really well, and I've got to meet him. Holy fuck. He hit his accent in 10-inch cock is what people like to use as the joke, but 10-inch cock. That's hilarious.
And that guy, he's another character, that guy, Terry Ryan. He's like, I would always tease him about his book about getting the blowjob with the from a guy, and I'm like, bro, you should leave that shit out of your book, and so he's great character guy, but I think make sure you read his book.
He's a wild man. He's a wild man.
Yeah, so great guy though.
Oh yeah, 100%. Well, Brooksy, you and I have seen the show, and you said there's more good things coming up with Shoresy. I don't know how much you can say. I understand confidentiality, and I'm sure Kiso would like to be the guy to give, the official news. But by the way it seems, I think anyone can predict that a season 2 has to come. You don't have to say yes or no to that, but I think given how successful the show was, and it's rated 8.5 stars on IMDb, and it's got very high ratings, which when you have those ratings, that usually leads to another season. I know sometimes good things come to an end, but I don't think Shoresy or anything in the Letterkenny universe is at that point yet. So can we expect a season 2, or can you give any information about a season 2 without violating any contract?
Well, I think I said good things are to come, so I think that can answer it right there.
Yeah, that's good. Okay. I tried to pry a bit more information.
Yeah.
Try to pry.
Of course.
I know.
Well, John, I definitely want to. No, go ahead, John.
Oh, you say it was.
I was just gonna.
We must be so. Anyways, yeah. No, I was just gonna say it was an awesome opportunity to go there, and I look forward to what the future brings with it. So. Right now, I'm actually in the middle of a campaign. I'm running for chief of my First Nation.
Awesome.
So that's actually
congratulations.
Here it's been busy. So we'll see how that changes down the road too, right?
Yeah. See, that's cool. That's really awesome to hear. Congratulations on that for sure.
Yeah. So now I just I want to get into your hockey career because that's obviously why we're having you on the show here.
Shoresy. I think Shoresy just as.
Oh yeah, well that's for you, but for me it's about the hockey. Yeah. So definitely, obviously, I'm definitely going to bring up the KHL later because I know of there's a lot of stories from over there, and
too many.
I just want to talk. I just want to talk about you were an undrafted guy. You worked your bag off to get to where you were, and as they say, you had to punch your way up, through the levels to prove yourself. And, despite being undrafted, you end up signing a career with, I think it was your first career was with Bakersfield in the East Coast League as a pro in the East Coast. And, I'm just curious, how did that end up coming about that Bakersfield was the team you went to?
Well, it's actually kind of like I said, my whole career has been I've did it the opposite way that most guys, being drafted, being signed, and going, on those kind of deals. I was playing in the Western Hockey League, and I actually got my high school girlfriend pregnant. So when I was 20 years old, I decided to quit hockey. I was going to university. I wanted to be one of those kids that, kept playing, left away, kept playing hockey. Left my girlfriend. So I actually quit hockey and enrolled in the U of S, at the University of Saskatchewan. And believe it or not, I wanted to be a veterinarian, an animal doctor. I grew up on a horse ranch. I have 25 horses. Always loved that. That was kind of my childhood dream. So I enrolled in university, was, working my way towards becoming a veterinarian. But, I started getting phone calls as a 20-year-old, and I started getting anxious, every in the fall when, all your buddies are training and they're all leaving the training camps. And, I was training and I was in good shape because I was a bouncer at a bar, but I wasn't going anywhere. All my buddies were starting to leave to their camps. And I thought, and I kind of reality kicked in, and I was like, well, fuck, I'm not going to go play hockey anywhere. I'm just staying here to go to university. And then I started getting phone calls from pro teams that were looking for tough guys, and I got a phone call from Bakersfield Condors, and they said, we'd love to bring you, and I was already committed to university. I paid a bunch of fees to go to university. And so they made a deal where they said, well, you know what, you can leave university. We'll pay all your fees that you're going to miss out on. You're not going to get any penalties from the university for leaving. So I actually ended up joining the Bakersfield Condors about maybe 5 or 10 games into their season. And to be honest, going to the East Coast, I told myself, oh, I'm going to go and get a lick by all these grown men, right? I said, I'll fight, but I'm probably not going to win them. I ended up having a really good year that year. I think I ended up with like 350 friendly minutes and, got rookie of the year for the team, and I did a whole bunch of other good stuff there. So really got my foot into the door and actually caught the eye of the Chicago Blackhawks the following year. 04-05 is when Chicago was actually thinking of trying to sign me. And then, as you're probably aware, the 04-05 NHL lockout occurred, eh? Yeah. So I spent my first year in Bakersfield, and then that's kind of where I got switched around. And then they sent me to Norfolk Admirals American League camp, who was the Blackhawks farm team. And I had a wild ride. Like I ended up going to the Quebec Senior League. I played in that Danbury Trashers. Where,
we're going to talk about that for sure.
I mean, I can talk for hours about how I was in Quebec, I was in Danbury, but bottom line is, and then I was actually going to even retire from senior hockey in Quebec, and the next year I was in NHL camp with the Columbus Blue Jackets. So the way I took it was a lot different than the average hockey player. So, but I don't regret a thing. I mean, I've met so many people along the journey, and it was just an awesome ride, and I can honestly say, I know a lot of guys say they love fighting that didn't actually love fighting, but I could say I loved what I did. And if I could do it all over again, I'd probably even do it harder.
That's wicked.
That's amazing.
So you got when it came to fighting, I know I'm going to let Brooksy ask the second part of this, because this was actually, I'm kind of stealing his thunder a little bit with this, but I'm not going to take the full.
Well, it's normal now. I'm used to it.
So the first professional fight, do you remember your first professional fight? There's a second parter to this, but I'll let Brooksy ask that one, as I said. Do you
actually, my first pro game, I was playing in Las Vegas. I had flown to with the team and met him in Las Vegas. I remember I just got I think it was an assist. Very first shift, I got an assist.
Cool.
So after the assist, go to center ice and line up again. And I thought, well, fuck, may as well make this game good. And, my very first second shift, I got in a fight. So, and I kind of cleaned the floor with the guy. It was like I said, a long, long time ago. I remember. So it was such a good feeling, to get into Apple, my very first shift playing pro, and then to be able to get in a fight and pretty much clean house. So, and like I said, I went there with the intentions of being a young kid and going to be fighting grown men. So I thought I was losing a lot, but to be honest, I don't think I lost one or two fights that year. So it was a great time, and I fought some big names like Josh Gratton and Steve McIntyre. We had some beautiful fights. So, like I said, it was a good first year into hockey, a good introduction, and I actually met my wife my first year pro, so that's why I'm married now.
Oh, amazing. Well, it's crazy because you're not It's because one thing is you're not a tall guy to fight
No.
guys like, McCaig, like McIntyre is a humongous human being.
Yeah.
And, to fight these guys, it just shows you, the power and strength. And do you feel that boxing really helped you for this?
Oh,
like, I know it's a different style.
100%. Boxing was a key to my success, just being able to move your hands, how to punch, where you snap your punches. There's so much. And it's just the conditioning too. Like boxing, people don't realize how much conditioning is in boxing. So, but yeah, boxing definitely helped. And, those bigger guys, I was always fighting uphill, I was always against the odds because, I fought Derek Bugard, who was 9.
Massive.
What's the other big guy? John Scott, whatever, all those big guys. Yeah, but to be honest, those bigger guys, I always liked fighting. I thought they were their punch more, and I love to be the guy. I love to be the underdog. It got a lot harder the older I got. When I was kind of one of the top guys, it was always hard because everyone wants to lose, right? So you have more to lose when you're up top, but when you're at the bottom working your way up, it was so much more fun because I was hungry.
See, when you're fighting, like I actually thought if you box or if you're a fighter in the NHL, that there would be a little bit of a difference, right? Because when you box, there's a little bit of and I'm dancing on screen because we're on video. Thank God I'm not just doing audio, so I don't look like a complete idiot while I'm talking right now. But I thought maybe there would be a little bit of a hindrance, but it truly can help you, right? When you really think about it. I know Brooksy was just asked that, but I was surprised, watching yourself or even others that we've had on the show that have done in their off season that are more of the enforcer types, fighting, how that actually helps off the ice. It could transition to the ice. I thought, given the technique in boxing, that could really be different than hockey fights.
Yeah, and but it is different too, because I always said, don't get me wrong, I'm not comparing myself to Mike Tyson, but I would have no issues fighting Mike Tyson on the ice. And in fact, I'm pretty confident I'd probably beat the shit out of him on the ice. But but it's true, because now I'm being the opposite of what you're saying. I'm comparing boxing to hockey fighting. Yeah. But you put me in a boxing ring, then he's going to murder me, so I don't know. It's a tough kind of saying, It's like when you talk about the UFC boxers fight, all the different things, But boxing definitely did help me, like the cardio wise, how to punch, how to keep your chin down, and just a lot of simple things. So, it was fighting was what made who I am today. I guess I still live on my reputation, how I fought.
No, it's good. Like I remember playing against you, multiple times when you were in Syracuse and stuff like that. And for me, like I was a goal scorer who fought, but I was a middleweight, so I was not going to be fighting you. But they, you know what I mean? You were a guy that everybody had to be aware of. You know what I mean? Because you could actually move on the ice. Like there's some guys that that can't move, and I always found the fighters that could actually get their bodies moving were the scariest.
Well, shit, not many people say that. I already like you.
Yeah. Exactly.
A funny story is too, like, believe it or not, growing up in Pee Wee and Bantam, I was one of the best players in the province, playing the AA Bantam leagues in Saskatchewan, and it's basically like our AAA leagues. And I was always really good. And then I made it. I had 2 older cousins that played pro. And when I went to these junior camps as a 15-year-old, and my older cousins that were fighters in the coast were running the camps before they'd go to camp. And they'd be like, oh, you're going to fight this guy. You're going to fight that guy. So I was kind of thrown into the fire at a young age. And, but going back to my story, like I come home and, everyone says, oh, Mirasty's just a goon. But I actually, the last 2 years, led our playoffs in scoring with senior hockey back, AA. And so a lot of guys can't believe, like, I think I had 15 points in 8 games last playoffs. And, and there's some good players and guys that you probably know, like Mike Siklink, Dwight King, DJ King. We have a lot of good hockey players and a good league here with a lot of good players. And believe it or not, I was actually leading the league in scoring a lot of times. So, when you're not focused on fighting, like I was there to fight, right, or to cause havoc, to go hit. But when you actually just get to go out and have fun and play the game, it's, I enjoy it. But I still enjoy. I'd rather fight 3 times than score 3 times, though. You get more chicks.
Yeah, for sure.
The Danbury Trashers, I'll say quickly. Now, I honestly, I'm going to be straight with you. I've watched the Netflix series. Okay.
I'm going to cut off right there because the Netflix series doesn't do it justice. That was pure mafia stuff.
Good. Okay. But that's what
we were playing at the AA pro level and we were all making NHL money. So it was, but even like the off ice antics, I mean, the documentary was great, but it doesn't do it justice on what really happened there. Like there was, but I will say this, Quebec was probably worse with the Hells Angels up in Quebec. And my first year in Russia with my partner Yablonsky there in Chekhov Vitas in the KHL was even pretty wild because our boss man was connected to the mob. So
I heard that. Okay, that's we got a whole segment for you in the KHL because there's questions.
Might have to do another podcast though because I don't we could talk for hours about all the shit I've seen. So and I could tell you guys stuff right now that you won't even believe. I mean, I've seen a cop be beat up with a bat right in front of me. By there's stories that I could tell you guys for hours that I don't have the time to right now.
We should do a Nasty Mirasty segment on each show and plug it in, and that could be a story. Make 100 episodes and write a book about it. But with Danbury, you played parts of 2 years there, and they were called the Bad Boys of Hockey, the Evil Empire, any name you want to go with. Okay. But you mentioned that the Netflix doesn't do the justice, and I'm not surprised. Okay, definitely 100% not surprised.
Hold that thought. You need to protect your investment from the start and at the top. And you can do this with Flawless Roofing Shoresy Incorporated. Flawless Roofing is based in Thunder Bay, Ontario, Canada, and Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario, Canada. Flawless Roofing is Sault Ste. Marie, Ontario's only certified EPDM roofers. Flawless Roofing has been in operation since 2012 and offers over 30 years experience in the business. Flawless Roofing offers solutions for both residential and commercial rooftops. You can check them out today at flawlessroofing.ca or give them a check out on Facebook.
But what is one thing, okay, that you can share and feed our listeners with? Like anything with Jim Galante or some things that Netflix didn't get into? Is there one thing that you would be allowed to say or would want to say?
Oh, I'm a guy. I'm not scared. I'd say I don't care, but just little like there was so much I could tell you from day one to the last day I was there that I experienced. But one of the times was, for example, like the money they threw around. We had played a game, and I think it was for Thanksgiving or something. We were going to go to some club in downtown New York City because Danbury was only 45 minutes from the city, right? Cool. And we had guys like late Garrett Burnett and all these big studs that were from the NHL that were, they were saying, okay, well, who are you going to bring to this dinner party? And you're talking about $400 or $500 a person to go to this restaurant. And you got guys bringing strippers and hookers and you name it. And money wasn't an issue. It was just like who you bringing because we need to know who's coming to this private, party that we're having. And there's so much I could, like, there's no justice. It was a free for all. Fighting, money, women, you name it. It was just crazy.
Unreal. See, and right now, are you still for sure playing it with the Black Bears? That happened this year, right?
Yeah, I don't want to ruin it for them either, but I had no intentions of going there to play. A good friend of mine, you guys probably know him, Kevin Killer Kaminsky.
Oh, yeah.
Out of Brooklyn, yeah.
He's a lot older than us. He would have never played against us, but he coached against me and stuff. And I've kind of built a good relationship with him over the years. And he had called me up and said, hey, I have a friend of mine that's going to be coaching and the GM of this Binghamton team. And I'm just aware of Binghamton because of, me and Yablonsky used to have our battles with, Syracuse versus Binghamton in the American League. And he said, can you sign just to create some havoc in the league and maybe sell some seats, some season tickets and stuff? So I said, yeah, they gave me a little bit of money to sign. And so I signed this contract with no intention of going there. But it kind of backlashed. Like my social media blew up and I had buddies call me and saying, are you really going to play? And, so long story short is they called me up and, offered me a good chunk of come and play their home opener, which I did. It's a different game now, though. They want me to play mean and tough like I used to, but I mean, 99% of the guys on the ice were asking me for my picture and autograph after the game, and so it's hard to be that nasty player or that asshole player when everyone's trying to kiss your ass. And So I didn't really enjoy it because I can't play mean when, I'm not going to be mean to a kid that's trying to take a picture with me after it's really hard. And the game's changed so much. I mean, back in the day when I was 20 and I was playing Bob Probert or something, I'd want to go right after him, right? Just to have, but I think the game's so different now that, you don't, like my first year in American League, I wanted to go after every heavyweight there was just because I wanted to be that guy, right? But now these younger kids, it's just a different game and it's a lot harder. So after playing that game, they do want me to come back. I don't know when. Like I said, my scenario now with running for chief, and if I get in, it's a pretty busy position. So I don't know what the future holds for that.
So the one thing I'll say, you brought it up, is actually one thing I was going to bring up was today's game. I remember, like, I'm a 91 birth year.
It's a pussy hockey world now.
Yeah, see, and that's the thing. And I remember watching the 90s, the thousands. When you can even compare the thousands, the 90s, it was a transition. From the 90s to the 10s, it was big. But now from the 10 to the 20, it's even bigger than what that was. But you couldn't go in the corners in the 90s. So I'll get a little slash. Like there was – the way it is now, okay, is for the skill presence because you can't get hooked. You can't get bodied. You can't do any of that. But hockey with fighting provides entertainment to the fans. It changes the momentum in games sometimes, too. It's a big effect. Do you think fighting will always be in hockey, or you think they'll eventually take it out for good?
At the rate they're going, it's really diminishing, pretty fast. But it belongs. Any real hockey player, even your top goal scorers and your captains and your more skilled guys, the guys that actually played back then, they know that, the importance of fighting, right? You don't get the average fan in today's game doesn't even understand, I've heard people say when me and Yablonski were fighting, that was staged and they're faking it. Fuck, trust me, when I was flying home on the airplane or on the bus, I couldn't put my face on the window because it was so swollen, there is that respect, and guys like me and Yablonski, we would tap each other on the head after the fight, but we respected each other, right? But at the end of the day, we wanted to kill each other because for him and I, it's really big because we both come from the same town. So, I don't want to come here and say, oh, Yablonski beat him up or vice versa, or John beat Jeremy up. So when we would go to war there. So, but with aspects of fighting, it's gone down a lot. And, I'm even in, I don't know if you guys heard of that Hockey Enforcers, the International Ice Wars, that I'm actually.
Yeah, I've heard that.
I'm a judge on there, right? And the guys they're bringing to these fights, I mean, no disrespect to them, but those guys would get killed in my day.
Some of them look like they couldn't even stand up. I've watched a few. Some of those guys are really struggling with balance.
I was giving shit about that. I was telling them, like, what are you bringing? Like, there was one kid they brought from California that couldn't even skate, like stand up on skates. And I was actually offended. I said, you're turning this into a circus, bringing these guys. And I'm thinking, me as a 40-year-old man that's completely out of shape would kick the shit out of all these guys. So that got me there. But there's some kids there with potential. But anyways, a funny story is after I signed in Binghamton, I think half the fucking players on the International Ice Wars all signed in the FHL now. So I was going to send them all a message and say they have to give me 6% each.
Give me royalty. 100%.
Yeah, thank you.
I started a trend of tough guys signing in that league, but so that International Ice Wars, I mean, even there, but I guess what I'm trying to get the point of is all the real big name tough guys are all old or retired now, right? So you're having a hard time finding younger guys that are 20 to 30 years old that want to do that job like we used to do. Yeah. So you're not, it's to their credit or to their disadvantage. There's not many guys out there to choose from, you're not going to go get a 40-year-old Jon Mirasty or a Steve McIntyre. We're way past our prime. So the pool of getting, I guess what would be the word of, recruiting tough guys is really hard now because there's not many out there. And then in the junior ranks, there's not many guys out there either.
None. They're not even that big. They're not even that big anymore. You don't see those. I know someone like Austin Matthews. Okay, he's 6'3", 210, but he's not dropping the mitts. Okay, he scores. Yeah. But that's considered tall and big now, where you got guys like Bugard that was a mammoth. Char.
Yeah, well, I remember my first time, when I was up in the NHL for exhibition season, I remember, I mean, you guys said it earlier, I'm a short guy, right? But I remember getting off the plane and I felt like a midget. I'm big, I'm heavy, 235, 240. but I'm very short. And I remember I felt like such a little kid compared to, standing beside Mike Commodore or, all these guys they're all 6'5", 240, 250. And, now I go to an NHL game. I took my wife a year ago, and I remember I felt like I was watching minor hockey. Most of these kids are, don't get me wrong. They're skilled up the ass, it's a really high paced, fast caliber game, but I miss that. It's not even the fighting I miss. I just miss the physical play. And, now there's a game, it'll be 8-0 and they're still trying to fucking score goals. That's when it was 8-0. I was saying, I was sending all my tough guys out there and said, go wreak havoc,
Exactly.
So the game's a lot different. I just think it's not as passionate anymore. Guys don't want to get hurt. Guys don't want to lay the body. And to me, that's just boring.
Yep.
But I guess I can't control it. That's the way the game's going. And who knows? Maybe it'll do a full circle. We'll be tough guys again. Who knows?
I hope that's
I can tell, from this, because it is hockey fighting is kind of getting out of the game, as you say. But now I find that the old fighters, the guys, that did it for a long time, you guys are getting even more famous now from all this stuff because there isn't anymore. And the true hockey fan from back in the day, they're all coming out of the woodwork trying to find you guys and what you're doing. And like you said, for the show itself, obviously, that's you got that part from your reputation as a player and as a teammate. And I think that's just, where it's going now. You guys are getting famous on other things and not having to fight because you guys are a dying breed.
Yeah. No, that's exactly what it is. It's sad, but at the same time, the only thing that bothers me is there's a lot of tough guys now that are all saying, I didn't want to do it. They made me do it, and I'm kind of against that because I loved what I did. And, so it's kind of deflating when you hear guys saying, I didn't want to do that. And I was forced to do that. And that's where that's where the media is going now. Yeah. And I disagree with that. If I did it again, I'd probably even be worse.
But I think some of those guys that are saying that wouldn't have made it if they didn't do that. So, it kind of goes hand in hand.
Yeah. And they didn't complain when they were there in the spotlight either, right? It's
exactly.
now that they're no longer there, it's like, well, I didn't want to do it. And I didn't get, I need to get, I loved what I did. And so I get a little bit down when I hear guys putting it down and especially guys that did it, right?
Yeah.
It's like you didn't.
Well, there's a few of you guys. Well, obviously I was teammates with Jeremy. Yabber and I were friends and teammates, and he loved it too. And then you got Trevor Gillies, a very good friend of mine. There's another guy that loved it,
Yeah.
And but those are you guys are the guys that I think played the longest and had the most fights.
Yeah, and I enjoyed it. It was awesome, So I just, like I said, I don't like the guys now, and God forbid, there's been a lot of bad things that have happened too, with a lot of the suicides and shit like that. But I've dealt with depression and all that, and I think it's more not the fighting in hockey because shit, if fighting was bad for your brain, why are they allowing the UFC to? Those guys get kicked, punched way harder than we do, and they're still doing it. So I just think the thing is, and I've experienced it myself, is, when you leave the game of hockey and you got that celebrity status, you make lots of money and everything's laid out for you. And then you retire and you go to the real world and it's a culture shock, right? You're not prepared for life after hockey. And I think that's where a lot of the problems lay, is not being prepared to leave the game, at your own pace.
Yeah, and you got all this awareness out there now with football and the protocols. Yeah, but it's such a bigger discussion. That's a whole other podcast too about fighting.
Yeah.
It's something that needs to stay. I would love if I'm down a goal and I got a guy on the bench that, I need that big goal to set the tone. And if there's someone's an idiot from the other team, to actually fight me because they respect and to try to change the momentum. Because I'm a firm believer, if I'm a coach on the other side, if I'm up, I don't want my guy fighting, because if he gets his ass kicked, that changes the whole thing. Because I've been on both sides, and Brooksy, I'm sure, has, because he played a higher level than I did, Brooksy. That flip, when your guy just gets in a fight and beats the guy up and gets your bench going, your fans going, it energizes you. It changes every course of the momentum. It's like an approach at a baseball bat. If an umpire calls a strike when it was a ball, it changes your whole approach at the at-bat. So it's like hockey, where momentum switches and it changes your whole approach to the game, and it just can flag it your way or against you, right?
Yeah, 100%.
But Brooks,
Yeah. So
yeah, please. I know what you're getting into. I've been waiting for this topic. I'm excited for this topic. I had to line you up for it. That's it.
Oh yeah. No, but like, well, first I want to get into a little bit of the KHL here, and
a little bit.
You know, obviously, yeah. Well, obviously, there's so many stories that we've heard some. We've had a few guests on here that have told some great stories, and obviously, you and Yablonski going together, and I also think I don't know if Trevor was with you guys at the time, Gills, or
No.
or he was on a different team, but.
After.
Yeah, so you guys went over there, and obviously there's been stuff on the internet, and I just want to know if there's some stories you can get into. I know there's been lots of fights off the ice, on the ice, everywhere. Yeah. I've seen Jeremy chasing guys around the ice. Just want you to get a little bit of your life and your story over there in Russia.
Well, the best story probably, the one everyone talks about, is the wedding fight or whatever, where it says we went to a wedding and beat guys up, which is completely false. It was our actually first 3 weeks there, and we went to it's like a preseason, but it's a tournament we went to. I think it was in Magnitogorsk, and I remember it was a Friday, Saturday, Sunday. We played one game each day, and I beat up that he played in Tampa Bay, Artukin, I think it was. He was a big Russian tough guy.
Okay,
but anyway,
Evgeny Artukin? No, I think, yeah.
But after the Sunday's game, we were leaving Monday morning. We were going to fly home. Andre Nazarov, who was a tough guy in the NHL, was our coach. He told us, he said, "You guys go have some fun. You haven't, but you've been in Russia for 3 weeks and you haven't really let loose. So go have some fun." So I remember all the import guys, like all the Canadian and the American guys, we all went for dinner. We went bowling. And over in Russia, I mean, a bottle of vodka is $10. So, I mean, we were having a bottle of vodka each and got pretty smashed. And anyways, we thought, okay, well, we haven't been in Russia for a long, so we've only been here for a while. Let's go check out the women in this town, let's go to a bar. So we went to this club, but it didn't open until midnight. So we were all waiting outside this club because the doors didn't open until midnight. And, me and Jeremy Yablonski, we stood out like sore thumbs. We both bigger guys, black guys, Mohawks, however I was there. So we caught up a lot of attention. It was mostly like positive attention. Guys were coming to get autographs and take pictures. And, it was a big crowd. And what happened was there was a wedding party that showed up at this club, and the girls were trying to take pictures of us. And the men didn't like that. So then the men in the wedding party were getting angry and talking smart. So I remember things got a little bit vocal there. So I backed up. Growing up on the reservation, when there was a party and there was trouble, I would always get to the back so I could at least watch my, see everything in front of me. And, so it was, I mean, if you guys probably watched the video, I don't know if it's still on YouTube, but anyways, for about 10 minutes, they were just kind of arguing back and forth. And, long story short is anyways, after about 10 minutes, then it got physical. And then I seen Yablonski go in there, and then a guy jumped on Yablonski. So when I seen Yablonski get in jump, I jumped in too. And then we ended up, long story short is Jeremy and I ended up knocking out like 4 or 5 guys cold. And I remember when we were done, I stopped and I looked, and these guys were all on the ground shaking, right? And their women were over top of them. And I'm like, fuck, what if we hurt one of these guys? And we're in the middle of Russia. We're going to get, we're going to get in trouble here. So anyways, they all took off running. And I was I'm the slowest guy. So I'm the last guy running. And then the cops. So I actually stopped because I didn't want to get shot or something. So I stopped, and so they come and cuff me up. And luckily, our Panarin that's playing with New York right now saved me.
Wild.
He comes back. At this time, he's like 19 years old or 20 years old. And he comes back, and he didn't speak a word of English at that time. And I didn't speak a word of Russian. And these cops were all speaking Russian, and they had me cuffed up. So, that Panarin, I just remember him come back, and he's trying to explain to the cops. He's like, "That's Mirasty." He kept saying, "Tough guy, play hockey." So he looks at me and he says, "Money, money, money." And I'm like, so I had like maybe $400 in my wallet, American. And I showed him, he's like, give. So I gave these cops that American money, and they uncuffed me and let me go. So that, that's one of the stories that, me and Jeremy ended up beating up a few guys in Russia or at the bar. But yeah, there was that one. And then there's a story about, I guess I got time for one quick one was me, Jeremy, and, my wife had a baby, and my wife was living in New York because that's where I played the year before, and she was finishing her schooling. So I was playing in Russia. Then when my wife had my first daughter, I flew home for a week to spend, have the birth and stuff. And then I flew back. But about 3 weeks later, my wife was having some struggles. It was her first child. And so I'd asked the owner, I said, listen, can I fly home? I have to go home and see my wife and just kind of help her to get things going. Can I take 2 weeks off or whatever? But we were playing Barista-Stana, who had Josh Gratton and Chris Simon. And, in that league, not many teams had tough guys. So Josh Gratton, yeah. So anyways, they said, yeah, you could fly home. And that's when Jeremy took that big suspension. You guys remember that Yablonski suspension they made in the KHL?
Oh, yeah.
He invented that rule.
Yeah. But anyways, so the long story short is, because we had Jeremy and Kip, Brendan on the team, the boss of our team said, yeah, go ahead, you can go home. We still got Jeremy and Kip anyways. So I flew all the way from Russia to New York to see my wife. I wasn't even home for 4 hours. I got there at 7 at night, went for supper. I went to bed, but when I went to bed, I turned the news on and they were playing the highlights of what Jeremy and them did with that big suspension. So sure enough, at about 4 o'clock in the morning, my Skype's going off, because that's how we communicated over there with Skype.
Yep.
And it was Jeremy. He's like, Johnny, he says, Sasha, who's the owner's son, is going to call you. Pick up your phone. So not even 10 minutes later, my Skype rings again, and it's Sasha. And he's like, Johnny, you have to come back. And I just got to New York. I just flew across the Atlantic Ocean and got to New York for 4 hours. He's like, you got to come back. He says, we have nobody for Friday's game against Barista-Stana. You have to be here. Jeremy and Kip are both suspended. And I'm like, are you fucking kidding me? I said, I just flew 13 hours and got here. I just went to bed with my wife, and you want me to tell her I'm leaving tomorrow morning? He says, you have to. We'll make it worth your while. So at 4 o'clock, and I've only been in New York for like 6 hours from Russia. So I'm on the internet at 4 o'clock in the morning trying to get a flight to go back to Russia. And I could only find a first-class ticket. It was like $8,000. And I'm a cheap fuck, eh? So I call Sasha, and I say, Sasha, I said, there's a ticket for $8,000. I'm not buying it. No, just buy it. We'll reimburse you. So long story short is I bought this flight. So I was only in Syracuse for about 8 hours, and I had to get back on a plane. I flew all the way to LaGuardia. Then from LaGuardia, I was supposed to fly to Warsaw, Poland. And this is already like, you got to remember, Russia's 12 hours ahead of us, right? So this is like Thursday night, Friday morning. I get to Warsaw, Poland, but I missed my connecting flight. So I call Sasha, and I'm like, Sasha, I made it to Warsaw, Poland, but I'm not going to make the game. My flight to Moscow, I missed it. Oh, no, you got to make it work. So I ended up rebooking my flight from Warsaw to St. Petersburg, and then St. Petersburg back to Moscow. So I ended up getting to Moscow at like 5:30 p.m. And it's a 7:30 game, and I'm in Moscow, which is like New York City. And I'm not going to make, I'm like, Sasha, I landed in Moscow. What do you want me to do? He said, leave your checked luggage. Just run outside. There's going to be someone waiting for you. So I go outside, and it's the Escalades, like the bossmen or the mafia stuff. And 2 cop cars are waiting for me outside. So they literally drove cop cars and escorted me through the traffic to make this game in about an hour away. But there was a rule in the KHL that you got to remember, and I haven't been sleeping for 24 hours. Like So anyways, I get to the rink about the team's already on the ice warming up, but there was a rule that I had to step foot on the ice for warm-ups in order to play. So I literally got it dressed as fast as I could and went and did 1 lap on the ice and came off, and I fainted. I was so fucking tired and adrenaline out that So then I get called into Nazarov's room. He says, well, you know what we flew you here for? And I said, yeah. I said, first shift put me out there. So anyways, I ended up fighting John. You can watch him on YouTube. I beat him up pretty good, I'd say. And, I fought him up the first game, or the first fight, served my penalty. And there's only a 2-fight rule there, right? So then served my 5 minutes, and then I came back and said, I said, I want to fight him again. I don't want to be here. Like, I haven't slept for, fucking 30 hours now. And so next shift I go, he doesn't want to fight, but we end up fighting. So I kind of get him again. And then we're kicked out. And then the team ended up leaving after the game. They went on a road trip, and I partied for like 2 days with the boss man. And then I flew all the way back to New York, and I spent like a week of my
zero sleep.
So I basically, flew across the Atlantic Ocean for 1 game, and then I went home. But long story short is they made it worth it. I think I got like a $50,000 bonus in cash for doing that. So it was well worth it, but it was quite people don't know the true story that I flew, across the ocean twice to play that.
Run into detail of that break, and that's Josh Gratton, right? Was that the Josh Gratton fight?
Yeah.
I know there was like fights in the row. Like, like people when you get paid there in Russia, there's guards with guns. I've heard every story under all of it. It is fucking hilarious.
Yeah. I've never had any, you know, you hear a lot of negative stuff like where guys didn't get paid their money and stuff. But to be honest, I was always paid more than what I signed for when I was there because I got lots of bonuses and, you know, gifts and stuff. So I have nothing but good things to say about Russia. It was awesome and I was treated like gold, you know. So I have nothing negative to say about the KHL.
That's cool. See, we've had a lot of negative. It's about time we had a little bit of positive. And to hear that you flew over the Atlantic Ocean, you had to fly here, they picked you up an Escalade, police escort, beat snot out of somebody a couple times and friggin' had some party after. That's unreal. You can't write that stuff.
That's priceless.
Yeah, there I was treated really good. So like I have nothing bad as, you know, you always hear these things where guys didn't get paid, you know, where they were set up and stuff, but no, they treated me like awesome. So I have nothing bad to say about that place.
Oh, we've had, I know James Duthie pretty good, been able to connect with him. And he has a book called Untold Stories, Beauties. And I think you and also Brooksy got some tales that you can share in that book. And I almost feel like telling him, you got to hook up with the Jon Mirasty here. Okay?
Oh, I'm only telling you guys a few. There's a lot of other ones.
Now, you know what? I know
That's for part two. Part two.
Well, definitely.
There's some that I can't say on here either.
You know what? We'll have those ones you can't say while we're having just a beer when we can meet up sometime. We'll definitely have to have a part two because definitely hear more of that. But I know we've been talking for almost the past hour. So we're going to get to the saddest part of the show, I call it. More of the conclusion, of course, right? Time flies when you're having fun. That's for real. You've been chatting for 50 minutes. Doesn't really feel like it. So obviously, you know, you have quite the journey in hockey. You've signed to play this year. You've traveled around Russia. You've played in different leagues. You're on Shoresy. You're wearing the attire right now. Okay, I want to give you the floor. I like giving the guests the floor at the end to promote, to plug, or bring up anything that you want to bring up that we haven't yet. Heck, if you have a friend that you want to promote on here, I don't care. If you want to promote something or promote yourself, I wanted to give you the floor for as long as you want to say anything that else you want to bring up before we get to say our goodbyes.
No, I think I've talked too much already, to be honest. But, you know, like I said, now that I'm done and back home and stuff, you know, it's nice. Like I told you earlier, I'm going to be running for chief. You know, I'm really involved in my community here in Flying Dust. And, you know, I had a pretty, you know, I was an Indian kid that grew up on the reserve and got a pretty successful life out of it. So I'm just here to kind of empower our youth. And that's a big reason why I'm running for chief, you know, to be able to make executive decisions and to lead the way. So I appreciate you guys having me. It was awesome. Anytime you guys want to chat, I'm around.
Definitely. I want to say thanks, John. That's amazing. And Brooksy, you know what? I'll say thanks to you too, because you take the time.
Oh, nice of you.
All the time. I guess I could say thank you and appreciate what you do also.
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I really appreciate it, Dave.
And last plug, your light situation, Brooksy. Okay, John, I won't get into this.
Oh, yeah.
Wrap up. We like Brooksy sometimes. His light is such dog shit sometimes. Okay, because it's dark.
Oh, yeah.
But today
I had to improvise.
I had
to improvise today.
He has a fun setup today. I don't know if you could show it, Brooksy.
Oh, yeah, I will. I'll give it a little show up. Look at this. Look at the lights. They got the old school lights going.
Right on.
Well, that's not a ring light. That's not ring light criteria.
No, you know what? I didn't feel like going to get
darker
one.
than all your guys's.
It's funny. Brooksy, I had to plug in your lights. All right.
Oh, it's all good. Hey, you got to improvise sometime.
You do, but he's good. You know, you styled your hair today and you got new lights. You're a whole new guy today. New guy today.
Yeah, I'm ready to rock. Let's go.
Definitely. So thanks again, John. It's been amazing. The show, love the show, love to hear the career, the stories that you had, and God, Jablonski too. You two guys can have a show together maybe next time. I think that would be just absolutely epic. I think that would be the next one.
I got to correct one thing though. Me and Jablonski are not cousins.
You're not cousins, eh? No, I thought you guys were related.
Put it this way. He's white and I'm Indian. How does that work?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, no. The reason that happened was like we were playing hockey and I grew up with Jeremy. He's a few years older than I am, but I always looked up to him as like an older friend and cousin. And I think one of the reporters just said, that's they're cousins, but we're not. So,
it's just been ran with because I could have sworn Jeremy had said it to me before.
Yeah. And he's related to one of my cousins through marriage, so there's a little bit of that stuff there. But
yeah.
I would just joke around. I said, I'm brown, he's white. We can't be cousins.
75th removed through marriage.
Yeah. But appreciate you guys having me, guys.
Thank you. And I want to
Thank
remind
you.
listeners, thank you for listening. Make sure you like, follow, and subscribe on all the platforms of the Game Sports Show and TGM, Spotify, Apple, Amazon, Podbean, Podtail, Facebook, Instagram, the website, thegamesportshow.com, TGM YouTube channel. Listen, everywhere. If you don't hit like, follow, and subscribe, I might send John to your house. I don't know yet, but either way, you should be hitting like, follow, and subscribe because we've always got the fun and electrifying content. And I want to remind you to keep your stick on the ice, swing your bats, catch your touchdowns, drain your threes, and shoot your shots. Booyah.